Over 100,000 people were killed in the secret wars and proxy conflicts that ravaged the globe during the Cold War, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of a conflict that was supposed to be a war of ideologies, not bullets. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, marked by an arms race, espionage, and propaganda, but beneath the surface, a more sinister reality was unfolding. The superpowers were engaged in a game of cat and mouse, each trying to outmaneuver the other, but the real victims were the innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, was notorious for its human rights abuses, with millions of people imprisoned in gulags, forced labor camps where they were subjected to brutal conditions and treatment. But the United States was not innocent either, with its own secret operations and covert wars, often using proxy forces to fight its battles. The CIA, in particular, was involved in numerous clandestine operations, including the overthrow of democratically elected governments, such as in Iran and Guatemala. These actions were justified as necessary to prevent the spread of communism, but they often led to further instability and suffering for the local populations. One of the most shocking examples of the Cold War's hidden truth is the story of the MKUltra program, a secret CIA operation that involved experimenting on unsuspecting civilians with mind-altering substances, including LSD and other hallucinogens. The goal was to create a mind control program, one that could be used to manipulate individuals and influence their actions, but the experiments often ended in disaster, with many subjects suffering from long-term psychological damage. This was just one of many secret programs run by the CIA, which also included the development of biological and chemical weapons, and the use of torture and other forms of psychological manipulation. The Cold War also saw the rise of proxy wars, where the superpowers supported opposing sides in local conflicts, often using military aid and advisors to influence the outcome. The most notable example is the Vietnam War, where the United States supported the government of South Vietnam against the communist forces of North Vietnam. But the war was not just about containing communism, it was also about maintaining American influence in the region and securing access to valuable resources. The war ultimately claimed the lives of over 3 million people, including many innocent civilians, and left deep scars on the psyche of the American nation. Another lesser-known example is the war in Angola, where the Soviet Union supported the communist MPLA government, while the United States backed the anti-communist UNITA rebels. The war was marked by brutal atrocities, including massacres and forced displacement of civilians, and ultimately resulted in the deaths of over 500,000 people. The conflict was fueled by the superpowers' desire to control the region's rich natural resources, including oil and diamonds. The war in Angola was just one of many proxy conflicts that took place during the Cold War, from Nicaragua to Afghanistan, each with its own unique set of circumstances, but all sharing a common theme of suffering and devastation. The Cold War also had a profound impact on the environment, with the development of nuclear weapons and the subsequent testing of these devices leading to widespread radiation contamination. The Nevada test site, where the United States conducted many of its nuclear tests, is still contaminated today, and the local population has suffered from high rates of cancer and other health problems. The Soviet Union also conducted numerous nuclear tests, often in secret, and with little regard for the safety of the local population. The legacy of these tests continues to haunt us today, with many areas still contaminated, and the long-term health effects still not fully understood. As the Cold War drew to a close, the world was left to pick up the pieces, to try to make sense of the devastation and suffering that had occurred. The Soviet Union collapsed, and the United States emerged as the sole superpower, but the consequences of the Cold War continue to reverberate today. The rise of terrorism, the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, and the growing tensions between the United States and Russia all have their roots in the Cold War. The world is still grappling with the legacy of this conflict, trying to understand the motivations and actions of the superpowers, and the impact that their decisions had on the world. In the end, the Cold War was a conflict that was fought on multiple fronts, from the battlefields of Vietnam and Angola, to the secret laboratories of the CIA, and the nuclear test sites of the Soviet Union. It was a war that was marked by atrocities, suffering, and devastation, but also by a profound lack of understanding, and a failure to consider the long-term consequences of our actions. As we look back on this period, we are reminded of the importance of learning from our mistakes, and the need to approach the complexities of international relations with a nuanced and informed perspective. The Cold War may be over, but its legacy continues to haunt us, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, and the devastating consequences of a war that was fought in the shadows, without regard for human life or dignity. The truth about the Cold War is a stark and unsettling one, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a deeper, more sinister reality lurking just beneath the surface.